Hey, welcome investors to the 40 Finance channel. My name's Jeff Beers. Today we're going to do a stock analysis on Pinterest. Pinterest has had a really good year this year as far as advertising dollars. And so it's time to take a look and ask ourselves, is this a good time to buy Pinterest for the long term, or has the stock sort of already run up that sort of includes some of the pricing that we would expect over the next 12 to 18 months. Reminder, as always, that my stock picks and projections, they're just my opinion for your entertainment. Please make sure you do your own research and due diligence before investing in any stock. And of course, if you like stock market analysis and personal finance videos, please subscribe to the 40 Finance channel. Give this video a like. Thank you to everyone who has supported the channel. Okay, so Pinterest isn't necessarily a new social media platform. Gosh, they've probably been around for 5, 7, 8 years or so. But where the attention is being drawn to Pinterest is the fact that their advertising platform has started to catch on with advertisers. They have a new self-service platform. I guess it's been out for a few years actually, but they keep adding new features to it. This is a platform that I've personally used across thousands of dollars for some of my digital marketing clients and projects. So I'm very familiar with how it works. And I can tell you that from a release standpoint, they are constantly adding new tools to it. Obviously, the goal being for Pinterest to grow, revenue per user or revenue per time watched. So developing that positive relationship with advertisers is really what goes a long way on these social media platforms to making them profitable. The big question for Pinterest, in my opinion, is I like what the revenue is looking like with this new advertiser interest, but it's just a matter of, how big can this platform grow over the next 3 to 5 years? You think about the Googles and Facebooks of the world, and they really have like multiple platforms to advertise on. So for Pinterest, it's kind of a one-trick pony in terms of this platform that they're offering for users. So we'll try to take a pulse today and figure out like how much more revenue can we squeeze out of this platform going forward, and that will tell us where this stock could go from here. Okay, so as an advertiser, obviously one of the more important metrics is going to be how many people you can reach, and then, the interest level inside of that and the demographics. We can see that in 2020, this is a Q3 report, by the way, from their investor relations. And the bottom line of what you have, if you look at monthly active users in millions, international versus US, the trajectory here is really all about this international. Okay, the international has grown. US has grown too, which is awesome. I think obviously the pandemic and the amount of time that people have with lockdown and the different things has certainly helped grow on the United States side. But the international was the big jump from a year-over-year perspective. And to put that in context, these notes here, US MAUs were 98 million, an increase of 13% year-over-year. International MAUs were 343 million, an increase of 46% year-over-year. So you can kind of get the feeling of where the growth opportunity is for Pinterest on the user side. And frankly, on the revenue side, it's the exact same thing. So international revenue, you can see the small slice of the pie here versus US. And we got a couple positives here. First, we have the fact that the US revenue is basically up, 50% or so. And then on the international side, you're up over 100% in revenue. So definitely strong growth. I can't imagine that it would be the same thing without the pandemic. But these are the opportunities like the Zooms and the DocuSigns of the world where you can really build the foundation for your company for many years ahead. All right, let's see where the stock price stands today. Right before market open, we were at 70.48. P ratio, Pinterest is not profitable yet, but we'll talk about that in a second because it is right in their crosshairs, perhaps even by the end of this fiscal year. 52-week range, $10 up to 72.88. So 72.88 is your 52-week high. You can see where we're sitting here today. The graph tells you about all you need to know, which is frankly that they've had a great year and they are on the upward swing. So anytime I see a graph like this, you just want to make sure that you have your considerations in mind in terms of how much farther can Pinterest go. It looks like investors are definitely in on this one, but you do have a little bit of a flattening here. And so we have to be careful not to get in at the top. Looking at the basic metrics, trailing 12 months revenue of $1.3 billion. You got a forward PE, basically on a non-GAAP perspective of 104. Then you have cash on hand of $1.6 billion and a relatively small debt load there of $165 million. So if you figure $1.3 billion in trailing 12 months revenue, you got cash on hand of $1.6 billion. That's over a full year's worth of revenue. Certainly plenty of room on the debt side if they were to do, let's just say, an acquisition or double down on investing in the business. There is some room to run. Okay, so on the earnings side, we're just taking a look at what analysts think about Pinterest earnings and their forecasts for the next year or two. We've got about 20 analysts that Yahoo's tracking on this one. Did not have an EPS last year. This year, the average is supposed to come in at 29 cents. Again, that's going to be a non-GAAP number. And next year, though, it doubles up to 63 cents on the non-GAAP side. So definitely positive momentum coming in for Pinterest stock, at least from a projection standpoint. Then we scroll down a little bit and look at the revenue projection. So 1.63 billion is about where we'll land this year. And that goes up to over 2 billion next year if you take the average from analysts. So you do have a strong growth. That's about 41% year over year. And it looks like they did the same thing this year if the dust settles and we land at this number. So good, strong growth from both a revenue and EPS side. All right, taking a look at the TipRanks analysts to see what they think about Pinterest over the next 12 months. As always, we try to sort by the best performing analysts who are 4 or 5 stars. You got buys and holds. Looks like more buys than holds. And you can see here that there's basically alignment that there's a limited amount of room for Pinterest to run. I would tend to agree with that. You got 14% upside to $80, but that is projected over the next 12 months. So at $70, if you got into Pinterest, let's just say today, the upside over the next 12 months does appear to be limited. It doesn't mean that the company's bad or that they're not growing. It just means we've seen a lot of growth already priced in. All right, this is a neat little graph that I pulled from an Argus report that stacks Pinterest up against Twitter, Alphabet, and Facebook. You can see that for Pinterest, it's really hard for anyone to project a 5-year growth rate right now. They do have Facebook sort of winning that battle at 24%, Google at 17%, Twitter at 12%, and then Pinterest, it's sort of a question mark because we have not had a full year of GAAP earnings, positive GAAP earnings and EPS to sort of calculate where this growth might go. On that EPS side, Argus is calling for a 250% increase in EPS next year, which is great. But keep in mind, we're coming from a negative EPS territory or no positive earnings. So it just about takes this to get you back over the positive line. And you can see that Facebook, Alphabet, Twitter, despite their size of being massively bigger than Pinterest, they're sporting some healthy growth rates as well. With that, you kind of got to stare at Pinterest and say, what is the better opportunity? is Pinterest the best place for your money over 1 or 2 years? Or in relation to their stock valuation, are one of these players going to grow more from a stock price, over the next 1 to 3 years? That's what you have to think about. From an Argus standpoint, you got 3 buy ratings as of the time of publication for this report. I believe it was the first part of December. So you got 3 buy ratings on the big dogs, and you got a hold on Pinterest. Again, this is not to say that Pinterest isn't doing good things. It's just reading the pulse of their current stock valuation, which we saw in the beginning, it has run up quite a bit. All right, so bottom line for me on Pinterest, I like the platform. I like the advertising platform as a marketer quite a bit, but I do tend to agree with sort of the hold rating we're seeing on both TipRanks and Argus. That $70 price point, I think, has sort of encapsulated the great things that they've done, not only now, but what they're building for the future. So I think you're looking for a dip here, which likely will not happen unless we see a broader market swing or broader market correction. And that's when you might want to get in if you just imagine that $70 or $80 is the sort of cap for Pinterest potentially over the next 12 months. You're just looking for a better entry point than $70. And then from there, you have to think about the long term and where does this platform grow. We know that international is the biggest opportunity right now, not only in terms of users, but also in terms of average revenue per user. So this is not a rocket to the moon United States digital marketing play. You have to think in terms of international, and if that aligns with the type of stocks that you hold. For me personally, I have sort of 2 broader thoughts on Pinterest. Number one, as an Etsy stockholder, Pinterest makes a really good complement to Etsy because a lot of people on Etsy use Pinterest to promote their products. So there's this oddball scenario where if you're bullish on Etsy, you're probably bullish on Pinterest to some degree. There's not a one-to-one relationship by any means, but that is something I've been keeping my eye on as a Etsy stockholder. And then lastly for me, I just wish Pinterest had more than one platform. I don't like all the chips on one social media platform. When you think about the beauty of Facebook is you sort of have Instagram, WhatsApp, etc. Google has, YouTube, search engine, maps, all these different things. And that's where I get sort of stuck because there's nothing right now that suggests Pinterest is going to have, another platform. They are obviously getting better at the one that they do have and driving revenue out of the one that they do have. 5-7 years from now, though, where does Pinterest go? When do we see the cap? That's the kind of thing, at least for investing in this one as a standalone stock and being a long-term stock investor, I just struggle with a little bit internally. However, if we did have a pullback, and I was thinking about this one for a little shorter term, let's just say 1 to 2 year, almost like a swing trade. I think Pinterest is growing in the short term. If there was a market correction, do I kind of try to get it at $50 just to pick a number out of the sky? That'd be a pretty hefty correction. And I think that Pinterest over 2 years can inch towards that $100 mark if they continue to grind on their EPS. All right, guys, so that's my analysis on Pinterest stock. Hope you enjoyed it. Please give me a like and subscribe if you like videos like this. We'll see you on the next video.